It is definitely about that collaboration piece, right? Like I was saying, how do you bring individuals together? The the piece with the scarcity mindset is that you are leaning into that competition. I get this all for myself. How do I take more? When you lean into the abundance and the collaboration, you see how can we create more? How can we grow? It changes the narrative, and I found this really beautiful. Just we're not really thought that much of the collaboration, or at least we're thought more. You get seen more in the mainstream medias and the news, right? Like just one person, one individual, but there's always a team or a group behind them. And you know, how do we tell the stories of like as we're moving up, we're lifting these people behind us to be able to work in that capacity or grow in that capacity or expand that capacity. And when I was saying this with the Latino Professional Association, my role really was around how do we as a community here in Madison, Wisconsin, we're a small but mighty community. How do we steer away from, constantly clashing, constantly competing against each other and collaborating?
Welcome back to Relatable Wisdom, the podcast where everyday people share the codes that have shaped their lives, inviting us all to reflect and grow together. Today we're joined by Mathias Lemos Castillo, a passionate cultural bridge builder and community advocate. With roots in Uruguay and the wealth of experience in diversity, equity, and inclusion, Matthias brings a unique perspective on fostering authentic connections across diverse communities. Let's dive into Matthias' journey and discover the quote that has inspired him along the way. Can you tell us your name and what your favorite quote is?
Yeah, my name is Mathias Lemos Castillo. And today I want to talk about the oftentimes helping other means help yourself.
Oh, in the form you filled, I think you said it aptly in a concise term and straightforward way, and that was lift as you rise.
Yeah, do you mind if I change it, or I could talk about that one too? I was thinking about it today, and I was like, oh, very similar.
I said the in the quote you provided, you said it in short terms, lift as you rise. What does that mean, bro?
Oh yeah.
Let me make sense of it.
Lift as you rise. For me, what that means is as you're moving up in the world, as you're growing, who are you lifting up to fill that spot, that position, that role you left behind? And how can we create a world, a process in which, as we grow into the next step, we're lifting another person into that space that we just left behind? So really, that's where it comes for me when we talk about, how do you lift as you rise?
Yeah, yeah. It's a strange um mindset. Like it's not a very good mindset, but it's a strange mindset. Not about the quote, but when people hear lift as you rise, most people think that in order to rise, they need to stop lifting, right? That if they lift people, it would affect their rising. Like it's as if one of these things is that if you do this, you cannot get this. Whereas these things are, if you lift people, it will help you rise.
Yeah, it's a really interesting concept because it really changes the mindset from that scarcity into more of an abundance, right? There's a role for everyone, and you don't always have to be the center or the one holding on to a particular role. You can let other people shine, and it's really meant to lean into that. How do you let others shine as you also move into your next calling, your next position, if you're in the corporate world or business world or in the community, right? Like there's room for everybody on the table. And I really appreciate that quote. When I ran into it, it was really uh, mind changing and a shift in the mindset, I would say. And additionally, it's hard to sometimes understand because some people could take it as, a really bad go to the gym model, right? Go lift as you wake up.
Yeah. For how long have you known this quote?
For me, it's been a couple of years now. When I started doing my work as a consultant, I run my own business. I'm mostly consulting. Um, I did a lot of community engagement work, and I was also running a nonprofit at the same time. And what really came to me was, there's this gap in leadership that is one person's moving out to the next role. That gap is there, and how do we fill that? And I think my approach was mostly as ourselves, as the person that's holding that space who are in that leadership role, are the ones that are ideally meaning to fill that gap or train someone to essentially take that mantle and run with it. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it the same way. That person has to do it the same way that you did it, right? And they can do it their own way, but providing the opportunity for them to be in that space is huge already, especially in a world that, Ali said it earlier, wisdom. People think that they need to hold on, or it's hard for them to lift someone when they are the ones that are holding. I think the mindset shift it really it helps you let go, allow someone to shine in that space, and for you to move on to your next role again, next position, your new adventure, your next calling, which has really inspired me and has helped me. As I'm working with community, as I'm working with projects, I'm working with individuals, find the right person, the right connection that will continue the work beyond just myself.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that you gave this speech in the Latino association, something like that. Can you still remember?
Latino Professional Association.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What was? Can you still remember the speech, or you forgot? uh,
Yeah, I remember. For
okay,
me, it was
okay.
my own transition, when I was stepping out and the new president was stepping in, is really allowing them to grow into that position and stretch even more than I had already stretched that grow in the organization. Wisdom, I was part of that for 7 years, and it was a good chunk of my time, of my life, and spent a lot of time growing the membership. We were in a membership organization. By the time that moved on from the organization, we were at over 500 members, and it was time also for a new, fresher breath there, someone that can revamp and continue the vision. We had just turned 10 years as an organization and thinking, what do the next 10 years look like? I saw this as an opportunity for new leadership to arise and move into where I was and continue that work for the next 10 years. So on our 11th birthday, we did that transition, and we had, new president, new leadership, all people that I had groomed in a way, I taught them the way that it was done, but also empower them to be like, how would you do it differently? We could have a whole segment on that quote alone, like how would you do something differently, and give them that space to really shine and grow their own leadership development work, which is what's a lot of, going back to my business, is growing that. How do we internally grow our leadership skills? And part of it is recognizing the moments when you need to let go of something and allow for someone to take it on for you and run with it. Uh, Let people be great.
Yeah. Oh, lift as you rise. Can you share with us a couple of personal stories where you've had to lift as you rise?
Yeah, uh, I have a mentee right now, and I think a lot about it that way. He just turned 22. He's young, growing into the world, and one of the ways that I see this mantra in my world is as I see opportunities or uh, professional development growth for myself, that I might feel like I already done this. Pass it on to him, right? Pass the baton to him. Be like, hey, these are things that are happening. Are you interested? Is it not? Um, does this align with the work that you want to do? And get to know people. I think when it comes to lifting as you rise, it's really a component of mentorship. And how do we mentor individuals, not just younger, but older, in the sense that I've also allowed spaces that I've been in for older people to get to chime in, get to explore their ideas, get to, again, do it in a way that's differently and not have to feel like they're confined to the way that it was done before, or, you're stuck to this one way. And really the heart of this saying for me, and the way that I understand it, is, again, allow for folks to lean into their own personal experiences, lean into the way that they experience the world, their perspective, the lived experiences, right?
Yeah.
And with those, and allow them to shine with that. with my mentee, for example, he wants to open his own restaurant, and for me, a lot of it is, you know, I used to work the restaurant business. Who are people that I know and that could help him develop those skills, that can help him connect with the resources, the connection that they need to run a business, and lifting him in that aspect of, I have the connections, I have the resources, and this person would value from those, even though I'm not using them. I think we all have someone or know people right in our networks that we don't necessarily do the similar line of work, or sometimes don't know how do we activate those folks. And I think that if you think about it, in the lift as you ride is a way to connect people. And how do you connect to individuals or more, right? That allow them that individually they have good power, but collectively they can even amplify that power to be even greater. So that's the lift as the rise model for me, is how do you put individuals together that can amplify their superpowers and be able to grow.
The and the form you feel when you were expatiating on the quote, you made mention of it's about collaboration, not competition. Can you expand on that on the podcast? Let's take a quick pause. If you're enjoying this conversation and want more thought-provoking ideas straight to your inbox, join the Relatable Wisdom email list. It's free, quick, and filled with bite-sized insights, inspiring quotes, and behind-the-scenes reflections from our guests. Just head to relatablewisdom.com/join. That is relatablewisdom.com/join, or tap the link in the show notes. And hey, subscribing to the podcast helps more than you think, and it's free. So if you haven't already, hit that follow button wherever you're listening. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
It is definitely about that collaboration piece, right? Like I was saying, how do you bring individuals together? The the piece with the scarcity mindset is that you are leaning into that competition. I get this all for myself. How do I take more? When you lean into the abundance and the collaboration, you see how can we create more? How can we grow? It changes the narrative, and I found this really beautiful. Just we're not really taught that much of the collaboration, or at least we're taught more. You get seen more in the mainstream medias and the news, right? Like this one person, one individual, but there's always a team or a group behind them. And, you know, how do we tell the stories of, like, as we're moving up, we're lifting these people behind us to be able to work in that capacity, or grow in that capacity, or expand that capacity. And when I was saying this with the Latino Professional Association, my role really was around how do we, as a community here in Madison, Wisconsin, we're a small but mighty community, how do we steer away from, constantly clashing, constantly competing against each other, and collaborating? What efforts do you bring to the table? What are your strengths? What do you not like to work? What are your weaknesses, right? And how do we work together to create a collective that can advance the mission of the organization and advance ultimately one another and individually, right? Because collaboration, again, is not that. It's something that's learned, and it's learned through practice, quite frankly. You don't always know how to work with someone, or if you have someone new in your workplace of work, right? It takes time to really build that collaboration, to build that synergy. And really, this Lift As You Rise allows you to also build that synergy with someone that you want to essentially take that position, right? If you're a manager, you have employees. Who of those employees can you lift to for you to be that manager or a director, and you're working with managers, or a CEO, right? About a business owner. Who do you want essentially to take that mantle over you when the time comes for you to move on to your next thing, or you feel like you're stuck and someone in the organization needs to go a different way, which are all things that are real and they happen. And accepting that piece more as a form of acceptance, and looking at the form of acceptance through collaboration in the way that you can find and identify individuals that will help you continue that dream. So whatever you started, if it's an organization, if it's a project, if it's just a mere for fun, doesn't just die. I can continue and be sustainable.
Yeah. I look at it collaboration over competition. Collaboration over competition. Usually it's, when you, oftentimes the things we want to do, we want to like achieve this, do this, it's because it's about us. And there's nothing wrong with that in a way, but you know, a lot changes when you're like, okay, I want to help this person. Oh, I struggle to get mentor I could look up to like say, oh, I want to be that mentor I never had for someone. I want to be that role model in the community for someone. And now when you make this, it's no longer, oh, I like this. Like, wait, if I do this, what image getting? Right? Am I giving a good example? Am I being a role model? Or am I just being,
Right. And how do we move away from just being a guy or a dude that just did something, right? Like, how do we create a culture and create a value of setting that good example for others around us and the individuals, correct? Because ultimately, we live in a world that's diversifying and is growing, and we need more good examples over just some random guy doing something, in my opinion, right?
yeah. Yeah, the moment I finished explaining that, I just realized that responsibility comes from the word responsible. And to be responsible means when you are responsible, like when you're responsible for certain persons, when you have people that have to lift, what happens is that it increases your level of responsibility. Because that's why usually when I think over here in Nigeria, when you're about to rent a house, the first question they ask you is, are you married? Are you single? Because if you're married man, you have kids and you have a wife, you just cannot wake up in the middle of the night and disappear from the house and just run away. Like you could do it, but it's difficult. Like, but as a single guy, I can just pack my things and just run away, and the landlord will not see me. So they ask those questions because they know that if people who have responsibility, people they're responsible for, they are more responsible. And
Means you're, and it holds the accountability, right? Wisdom is not just
yeah,
responsible, it's who you're accountable and that leading by example that, a husband or a parent for their kids, right? Might have, and it has ripple effects because if you do it with one person, ideally that person will do it for someone else. And it creates that ripple where more and more people are doing it. And there's a responsibility with it. It's not just, I put you in this position or I made you the CEO of this organization, now go, right? It's also the responsibility of working with the individual, teaching them, grooming them, or advancing them with the skills that they need, providing that space for questioning. It's very much like parenting if you think about it, because you want to set that good example for your
yeah,
children, but also set that example for your community, for the people around you, so they also recognize, their stakes and everything, and uh, your actions have weight to them. You gotta be responsible with your actions.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing Lift as you rise. And one of the disclaimer I feel like you should address right now is that when most people hear Lift as you rise, they're like, oh, the way politicians put people in position that, oh, if I put this guy here, if I put this guy here, if I put this guy here, when it's time for the next election, or when I have any issue, I'm just make one phone call and nobody is going to, look at what I did not do, and it's just going to move smoothly, right? And I want you to really address that the lift as you rise is not about having people in places because you would need more from them in those positions. Or
Yeah, it's an emphasis for growth and learning and leaning into collaboration. So it's not like you're just done, right? Like your work continues there. It's just in a different capacity. And again, have joked around, it could be a bad lift model when you go to the gym, but it could also be something very powerful for you to lean into others and allow others to shine with support. And your action, that's the action you're taking, right? You're making sure that someone's in your place, but you want to also make the effort that that person, that individual can continue the work authentically and in a manner that still serves the original purpose, not themselves. So that's part of the conversation too. There's a whole before you even lift process, right?
yeah, thank you, reminder, because now that you just said this, I'm looking back and asking myself, what have I put in place? What am I doing? What are the systems I've put in place? to ensure that I'm always lifting people as I'm rising. And I just looked at it and I realized that there's none. And then that would be something.
Something we all, it's a work in progress, my friend. It took me a number of years then. Even if it's just one, if it's 10, there's no actual like goal. The goal is what you want yourself to remember for it and how you want to continue, you know, moving people up in in the world. And who has
Yeah,
moved you? Think about it that way, right? So it's both ways.
yeah. Thank you so much. For those that listen to this episode and they love what you said, they would love to learn more about you and check out what you do.
I'm very active on LinkedIn Wisdom, so give me a follow, reach out. I'd love to connect and learn more around how are you lifting people as you rise in the world, what support you need, and yeah, my website is consultancy.com, but I'd love to connect on LinkedIn.
Were you able to?
Yeah, I would say, raise each other up, help each other grow. The world right now needs collaboration more than ever, and ask yourself what role do you want to play in that change?
Yeah,
And who can help you? If you need to develop any skills, who can help you?
yeah.
That's me. That'll be
Thank
my
you.
call to action.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matthias. Thanks again for being on the podcast. And
Thank you.
thanks for listening to Relatable Wisdom. If you found something meaningful in this episode, make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. If you'd like to support the show, you can do that by buying me a coffee. The link is in the show notes. Every little bit keeps the conversations going. I'm your host, Wisdom Conquer, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep growing.